You know your problem. You take too many things for granted.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a book review of a book that I would not normally read, style that I would not normally read, genre I wouldn't normally read. But I've picked this book because of Michael K. Vaughan's June on the Range challenge. So he suggested that people read westerns for June. So I looked into what possibilities there could be for reading westerns in June when he announced it, thinking, well, I don't normally read that sort of thing, but I've got a lot of time for Michael K. Vaughan, so I thought we'll have a look at what the options are. And there was like things like Riders of the Purple Sage, which I'd heard of. I'd heard of True Grit, and there's a few others, but most of the things I'd seen on this list I hadn't heard of. But I put my radar up for books that I might come across, either from the list or just things that might grab me. And just very soon after that, I found this, The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt, who's a Canadian author. And this book gained lots and lots of awards when it came out. And I found this quite cheap in a charity shop. And I thought, well, I'll get this and I'll read this. There's something else I'm going to read for the challenge, but this was the main thing I wanted to read. Again, very different from what I'd normally read. So it was a departure from my comfort zone, if you like. But I thought I'd give it a go. And it was not like what I expected at all. I didn't know what I expected, but I guess I probably expected something quite traditional in the sense of something. I thought I might get the feeling of one of those sort of 50s or 60s westerns. I thought I might get something that was about maybe redemption or like gunfighters that are doing a job or saving someone from peril or something that was quite standard. This was not standard. This was quite an unpredictable plot, really interesting characters, and a hell of a lot of charm. So, what's it about? So it's about the Sisters Brothers. So Charlie and Eli Sisters. That's their names. It's got quite a nice ring to it, and Sisters Brothers. It's got a sort of, I don't know, there's something charming about it just in that straight away, just in the names. Eli is the narrator of the book, and Charlie is his brother, a much more straightforward brother, Charlie. He's got a very clear definition of what he does. They're both killers. They're both guns for hire, and they are assassins, if you like. Charlie doesn't really mind that. He's very comfortable in that skin and gets a bit frustrated with Eli's more reflective nature, and, you know, he thinks just get on with it, you know, that kind of thing. They've got a very interesting, complicated relationship, and their relationship is at the heart of the book. So it runs through the whole book, and it's really real. So you get this real sense of them being brothers. You get a sense of the love between them, but you also get a sense of how different they are and how frustrated they are by each other. You know, Charlie likes to drink. Eli isn't necessarily that bothered about that sort of thing. He's got quite a romantic side to him. So right at the beginning of the book, they got encounters with prostitutes, and Charlie and Eli's attitude to the prostitutes is quite different. So, you know, right from the beginning, they're set up as quite different people, but you can see how close they are. So, you know, that relationship is a very charming and important part of the book. So they're guns for hire, and they've been hired by their boss, who's the Commodore, that's his name in the book, to find Herman Warm and kill him. And they've been told that it's because he stole from the Commodore. So there's a sort of like revenge thing for this thievery. As the book develops, they realise that there's more going on, that is not fully the truth. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a few moments in the book where things change. The plot changes, the character's direction changes, the whole setup between all the characters, the 4 or 5 characters involved, changes. And at all the points in the book, all of these characters are very realistically developing, evolving between, the relationship between them and their relationship with the plot. So there is a good sort of about 5 characters that get fully developed. These 2 are obviously at the centre of the whole book, but there's 2 others that get a lot of time in the book and a lot of development, and also the Commodore has quite a big part to play in it as well. So they go off to California from Oregon, I think, or maybe the other way around, to find... Well, I think it's probably going to California because the gold rush is the backdrop of this. So it's set in 1851 during the gold rush. So I think they go to California to find Herman Warm. What a great name, Herman Warm. And it kind of goes from there. So yeah, but as well as the really interesting relationship between Charlie and Eli, you got quite an interesting relationship between Eli, who is the narrator of the book, and his horse, Tubbs, his horse, and that's a really nice, charming part of the book as well. And part of the things that happen between Eli and his horse also reinforce Eli's relationship with Charlie, and there's a lot more depth to Charlie than you'd first imagine because of the horse as well. So that's kind of interesting as well, the way that develops. So yeah, I mean, the dialogue in this book is the big secret weapon. The dialogue is so brilliant. It's really immersive, and it's very vibrant, bright, lively dialogue. It's very realistic. You love listening to these characters speak. All of the characters have got great dialogue, and this way they bounce off each other, which is why I call it kind of vibrant, lively dialogue, because it's like really sparkling off each other, and that is a fantastically charming part of the book. And I couldn't put it down. I read it in about 5 sittings over a couple of days, and there was a couple of those sittings I wasn't going to necessarily read, but I wanted to make sure I had more time with the book, and I got up especially early this morning because I wanted to keep reading the book. And I haven't been this pulled into a book and enjoyed the experience of being in that world as much for ages. I really enjoyed the experience of reading it. So, in that sense, it wasn't something I had any preconception of what the experience was going to be like. It's not the sort of book I'd normally read, but I would recommend it to anybody because of that. So anybody that normally reads Westerns will absolutely get it anyway, because it's got lots of Western tropes. But I just think the way it's written transcends the standard kind of Western audience. And I think you just love it if you just liked reading interesting characters, moving through a plot that has a unpredictability about it in a way that absolutely charms you for the whole thing. So yeah, it's got a very understated humour. So it's not like laugh out loud, crazy, kind of silly humour. It's realistic. It's humour that's kind of almost sarcastic, the way that people relate to each other and how knowing that is in the way that they relate to each other. That kind of humour. Very understated and clever. It's really, really well written. And I just recommend it to anybody. So yeah, The Sisters Brothers, Patrick DeWitt, a really nice surprise for me. I'd recommend it to anybody. Such a good book. And thank you to Michael K. Vaughan for suggesting we read Westerns, because I wouldn't have read this otherwise. And it's a nice addition to my reading. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Picture of what it's like to be you. Sit up on your high chair